All right, I'm live on, can y'all hear me? I'm live on the Yielded page on Facebook if you guys want to go and grab that and share that, or YouTube, and share that, and everybody can engage with us there. Hey, what's going on, y'all? Listen, we are live here in the station. Go ahead, like and share this video and get everybody in to be a part of this conversation in this chat on today. I'm on a run. Hello, what's going on, Miss Angela? How are you? Listen, y'all, we're going to get this thing going in just a moment. I'm waiting on one additional guest. In the meantime, and in between time, I'm going to drop a couple commercials over here for y'all. Is that all right? Y'all going to be okay with that?
It's the Fiyah Show. Hey guys, Janice Harris here from Houston, Texas. H-Town, rocking with you then on the Fiyah Show.
Listen, if we even think you owe us money, you won't know what hit you. We'll put liens on everything you own. Raid your bank accounts, retirement fund, pension. You'll open up your paycheck and cry because we'll already have the money. We'll haul you into federal court and you might even go to jail. Hey, it's our job.
Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. Our experts will fight for you using IRS guidelines to stop any IRS actions like bank levies or wage garnishments. Plus, eliminate penalties and interest and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
I'd have my mom call the number on the screen. You come see me alone. We'll work it out. Really, we will.
All right, listen, y'all. That was none other than Antoine Hilton with God Is. And just before that, Jalen Calhoun with Can I Get a Little Grace? And one more before that was Lamont Sanders, I'm Blessed. It's your girl, Yielded. I am here in the studio today. Got some amazing guests that are in our virtual space that will be joining us in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and bring in our first guest. Y'all know who he is. He's no stranger here to Raise the Praise 100. He's just Sunday morning preacher here all the way from Birmingham, Alabama. So we're going to go ahead and bring him in. Good afternoon, Pastor C.
What's up, Yielded? What's going on?
Listen, I'm hot.
I'm hanging.
You hanging? I'm hot. It's just, hey, what's the weather like in Birmingham?
It is a beautiful 60 degrees outside.
Oh, come on, beautiful.
It's a beautiful 60 degrees outside. Now, I'm sure Texas is hot.
I have no idea what the temperature is. I got off the plane, took a shower, and jumped in the car and ran over here. So I don't even know what the temperature is. I know I got on flip flops. How about that?
Oh, well, see, that ain't good. It
got
ain't
on
flip flop
flip-flops.
time.
It
ain't flip flop time.
It's 66. It's 66. Shout out to my big bro over here in the comments over here. What's up, Griff from Get Up Mornings with Erica Campbell? He said, Bama in this thing.
Look, don't start, Griff. Don't start.
Awesome. Listen, y'all, we have an amazing conversation for you today. For those of you that are on social media, I know that you have seen the flyer going around lynching by another name. We're waiting on another guest who's supposed to be, I guess, our man of the hour. He's not here as of yet, but we do have a entourage of folk here.
We had to go get everybody in the kitchen sink. We had to go get everybody in the kitchen sink for this one.
Well, one of these gentlemen I'm familiar with, so I'm already nervous about him. So I'm probably gonna leave him out in the lobby just a little longer to let him get his wiggles and giggles and all of that stuff together. But we're gonna go ahead and bring them all in. Is that all right?
That's fine with me. I mean, let them have it. Let them have at it.
Okay, I'm gonna bring it in. I said I was gonna leave him out there, but I brought him in first. Come on in and go ahead, and I guess you're gonna let everybody introduce. I don't know how you're gonna do it. I'm gonna let you run it.
Look, Yielded, I put out a all call to my friends who engage in the work of returned citizens and who are engaging in the work of justice reform, not social justice, but justice reform, that are doing all types of work all across the spectrum as it relates to the most vulnerable of our society. And so I reached out to my new friend, Dr. Keon Payton, from the Pontiac, Michigan area. I reached out to my friend, Dr. Tyree, and the one and only Dr. Tyree Anderson. I reached out to my friend, Carmone Owens, and asked them to come and sit with us today and have this conversation. So if you would, just take a minute. Pastor Payton, would you just introduce yourself? Let the people know where you're from, what work you're engaged in, and if you have a social media, drop that as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brother Stewart, and to all the distinguished guests. It's my distinct honor to be with you all tonight. Keon Payton is my name. I'm the senior pastor of the New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Pontiac, Michigan, church where I was born and raised, and I have been the pastor there for just over 18 years. In addition to pastoring New Bethel, I am previously the National Director for Community Outreach and Engagement for Ebony and Jet magazines. And currently I serve as the National Social Justice Commission Chairperson for the National Baptist Convention of America. And so throughout the years, we have been focused on social justice advocacy work. Recently in 2021, I founded a national nonprofit organization called the Institute of Trauma and Economic Justice, where we work to educate, organize, and mobilize religious, business, political, student leaders to advance policies that address what's called adverse childhood experiences and their impact, particularly in structurally, economically disadvantaged communities, so Black and brown communities across the country.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. How can people stay in contact with you, or how can they find out more about the work that you're doing?
Please visit our website, www.itej.org. The acronyms stand for Institute of Trauma and Economic Justice, itej.org. That'll be a great website to learn more about who we are and what we're trying to accomplish in educating and bringing greater awareness to ACEs.
Okay, great. Carmone Owens, come on, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Carmone Owens. I'm the executive director of Second Chance Lifesavers. I'm from Detroit, so I've got family up there in Indian Hills up there in Pontiac.
Yes, sir.
You know where it is.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm imported to Birmingham because I came to Birmingham after release from the Alabama Department of Corrections. I've been blessed to have started a business, started our foundation. We've done prison reentry, parole board advocacy. I've helped 17 men get out. We've transitioned violent offenders. We do juvenile reentry, mentoring, life coaching, and violence prevention. There's a lot I could tell you. SecondChanceLifesavers.org or SecondChanceLifesavers@gmail.com is how you can get in touch with me. But we're living the life, and I still go in behind the fence. I'll be at the maximum security Donaldson tomorrow. I go into St. Clair. I go into Elmore. I'm engaged because I got a miraculous release from prison. I had 8 35-year sentences, and last year God blessed me to get a full pardon from Governor Kay Ivey and Cam Ward, with my gun rights and voting rights restored. So
Wow.
we've seen the journey from the front to the back, and we saw a lot of stuff along the way we wish we hadn't seen, and we'll get to that later.
Awesome.
That's spectacular. Now, Dr. Tyree Anderson, you know, I be nervous when you and Black Jesus come on, but I couldn't bring Black Jesus today. So tell us about yourself.
I thought Jesus was Norwegian. My bad. I was just, I guess, under the wrong assumption. I am Dr. Tyree Anderson. I am the senior pastor at the First Baptist Church of Inslee in Birmingham, Alabama, which is a historic civil rights church. I am also former supervisory chaplain with the United States Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Prisons, working with both men and women, both pre-sentence and those that had up to multiple life sentences. My expertise and my training, it also includes me being a historian with an area of concentration in Reconstruction. So I have a master's degree also from George Mason University in American history. And I've used all of, I guess, all this work that I've done in order to go into the institution, because unlike some chaplains who just show up, do a service and then go, that was my 40-hour, 5 days a week, pension making, money making venture. I did not pastor while I was a supervisory chaplain with the Bureau of Prisons. And I can confidently say, and I have the evidence, that lives were absolutely turned around because of the Underground Railroad work that I was doing at the institution.
Wow.
To the point that now I have those that have come out that call me their spiritual father. Those are my daughters that are now real estate brokers, that are now real estate agents, that are management in Fortune 100 companies. Have some who have come home to their families and have reestablished their lives in such a way, and they credit me, but I give credit to God, because God was the one that was using me while I was inside the institution to help them turn their lives around and to teach them that they are not a number and that they are not an enemy, but they are a person and they are made in the image of God. I'm also the chair of the Social Justice Commission for the Alabama State Missionary Baptist Convention. So for our state convention, I am in charge of making sure that the work of justice does not fall by the wayside. And we have a major conference coming up as we get ready for this November election, because people have to know not only what's on the ballot, but they also have to know what's at stake if they decide that they are not going to participate in activities that they are absolutely able to do. But if the wrong person get in, they won't have to worry about it. They'll never vote again.
So listen, I don't know if we ready to jump right into this, but I think we need to get right there. That's a great segue to talk about why we are here today. The title of today's show is, look, lynching by another name.
Mm-hmm.
And you might not get it right now, but our guest today, we're still missing one, but our guest today actually tie the strings together. They actually tie the strings together because we are facing in our time a epidemic. I'll go that far as to say an epidemic of people dying while in the hands or in custody.
Mm-hmm.
And those traumatic experiences, while they are supposedly out of sight, out of mind, the minute we say death in custody, a lot of us think of people who die because we see someone with a gun, we see someone in uniform, all of these custodial deaths that have been a part of our social media life and construct, and we see that popping on. But death in custody is even a person dying behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
It's a person dying while in custody of law enforcement. And let's just be honest. Whenever that person dies, however that person is wounded or harmed, it has long arms.
Mm-hmm.
It reaches to those children and grandchildren and community. And so to start this conversation off, Carmon, is jail safe? You're muted, Carmon.
In the 2019 U.S. Department of Justice report, they found that Alabama Department of Corrections consistently had a history of misclassifying deaths. The death rate in Alabama Department of Corrections is 5 times that of the national average. There was a record loss of life in 2023 and a record loss of life before that. So no, it is absolutely not safe, because you can't become rehabilitated if you don't live through the process. There's a scripture that says in Proverbs 3:31, envy not thou the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. And we do have ongoing lynching going on, but it is moved from merely racial to the frightening systemic. And you have the system perpetuating and self-perpetuating this wickedness and even multiplying this wickedness. And now you have our own people hands-on in this genocide. The rate of death from overdoses, and when we back up a little bit, the pandemic was a great asset to bureaucracies and hiding the wickedness that's going on behind the fence. The pandemic gave them cover. They're still implementing some things with control movement where the men can't move, but because of the officers bringing in a record number of drugs, fentanyl can't get into the prison except that the officers are bringing it in there.
Wow.
And
say it again, Carmon.
It can't, because it exploded during the pandemic when visitation was not allowed and outside ministries were not allowed. Outside vendors were not allowed. So it was within that the poison was coming in, and it's in record numbers, the addiction, the overdoses. And I'll close with this and get out of the way from my brothers. I talked to a young man who we tried to save, but he went back, and he told me, he said, Mr. Carmon, I can tell you how many men I've seen die on that bed. Not in this dorm. I can tell you how many I've seen die on that bed over there. That's how dangerous it is during time.
So, one of the things that I started listening to Dr. Mitchell's podcast, Official Ignorance. And in that podcast, Dr. Mitchell is talking about the long-term effects. Dr. Payton, he's talking about that every person that dies while incarcerated is not just that person, but those long-term effects that community hold that's left there. So I pose this question: if we only are concerned about the people walking the street, or better yet, why should we even be concerned about death while in custody? Why should we be concerned about people who die behind bars? Because aren't they criminals?
Sure. So if the question was posed to me, I certainly agree with everything that Brother Owens just referenced. First of all, the system is, in theory, should be working for rehabilitation of persons who have behaved in ways that now, based on science, we know that people that often make bad choices, there's nothing wrong with those people. It's actually sometimes a normal response to maltreatment that people experience in their lives. And so we now know, based on the ACE study, which was conducted in the 1990s, that adverse childhood experiences is the lead cause to substance use addictions, violence, sexual addictions, sexually transmitted diseases, incarcerations, suicides. All these things are related to untreated adverse childhood experiences. And to the extent that we know that persons are impacted by ACEs and that's substantially driving them to prison, then the question then becomes, what is the responsibility of the system to treat those persons who have been victimized by those various adversities? And so to the extent that our system does not focus on rehabilitation, we know that primarily in our correction system, it's more of a penal system where people are penalized, they are punished, they are treated as criminals, in which if they have been convicted of a crime, we do label them as such. But that labeling, I think, undermines those persons' basic humanity and dignity, which we often find then becomes reasons for people to mistreat persons in the system. And we see that whether they are the food that they eat or the conditions by which they are housed in incarceration, or in many cases, like the brother just mentioned, unfortunately, untimely deaths that are associated with people who are mistreated by law enforcement officials.
So, we're talking about this as if, and sometimes we seem to never see the historical connection between the events of our current existence, right? We don't always see the historical thread and how, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that we were having a discussion around the work stamped from the beginning, and dismantling the myths of Black inferiority. And we maybe don't see this thread of dehumanization that starts at a point, and how that thread is unbroken through history and in every space and in every place. And while we don't always attribute a death in the care of law enforcement, be that police, Department of Corrections, sheriff's office, whatever. Historically, how did we, Dr. Anderson, how is this thread connected, this dehumanizing thread that makes us look the other way? How's that connected?
How far back are we talking about going? I mean, because you can't start at 1619.
Okay.
You can't start at 1619. This literally has to almost go back to Isabella and Ferdinand.
Mm-hmm.
And with the arrival and the coming of the Moors that come from North Africa, and finding a way to dehumanize certain individuals based on their skin complexion. I mean, and so not to throw them under the bus, but the Catholic Church helped to establish that entire status of what is classified as acceptable and unacceptable. They didn't go necessarily with skin color, but what's acceptable and unacceptable. Eventually, they have been able over the years to tie it to a particular skin color. So depending on what your paint job is, will determine how close you are to righteousness versus how close you are to evil. And so historically, you've got to begin to look at the phenotype arguments that were developed and how they began to be used to justify treating one group of people one way and somebody else another way. So that's the reason why I said, how far back do we really need to go? I mean,
let's go back. Let's not go all the way back to Isabella and Ferdinand. Let's start with the emergence of our current penal system that comes about, doing Reconstruction. Let's start right there.
Okay. If you want to take a look at that and the the current rendition of the penal or the prison industrial complex, unfortunately, you ain't got to go much further than Brother Bill Clinton, Brother Joe Biden, and the Congressional Black Caucus, because they seem to get a pass when they were the ones who said that we can't control the folk in our community, come in and create an environment so that we can put them away and we can save those from the streets. You can start there, or you can go to the assassination of Dr. King and the rise of the law and order program under Nixon, when crime was at its lowest in the history of the United States. And he, along with Henry Kissinger, began to implement a law and order platform in order to go into the inner cities and lock up Black fathers based on a report that was done by Moynihan, which identified the strength of the Black family is the Black father. So if you want to destroy the Black family, you remove the Black father. And if you remove the Black father, the family will collapse. So you put them in prison industrial complex, born in the state of New York. It was born in the state of New York as a model of how to clean out the so-called ghetto. So when you start looking at this, certain people in certain positions created an environment that we see right now. So while we can argue and fuss about what Kay Ivey is doing in the state of Alabama with the desire to build these multi-billion-dollar for-profit prisons, you got to go all the way back to the 1970s with the birth of the prison industrial complex coming out of New York and coming from the governor's office, who said that he wanted to establish prison authority in the state of New York. So there's a whole convoluted piece dealing with that. And by the time, you get through law and order in the 1980s, Reagan coming in and, with the whole crack epidemic versus cocaine and locking up all these, Black fathers, they turned their attention then to Black mothers because they realized how strong the Black women were. So Black women started to get locked up in large numbers. Then you move forward into the 90s, Bill Clinton and Joe Biden. And Joe Biden writing what we got today that they still have yet to overturn. And then you move it on through and you still see more of this prison industrial complex mindset being implemented. Now they go into the schools and they create schools. If you ever look at a school environment looks just like a prison.
I was walking in one of the local schools here. I don't know about in Detroit. I don't know about in Texas. But I was walking in one of the local schools and it's so cold, like cold feeling. It's
like a prison. I mean,
with the lines on the floor telling people where to walk in between.
You cannot pass over certain lines. Same thing in the prison. You got to wear certain uniforms, just like in the prison. You got to sit there and receive instructions. Then when the bell rings, AKA it's movement time at the prison, you go to your next place and you only got a certain amount of time to get there. Everything is being developed to condition these younger people to be functional inside of a penal institution. And we don't know it because we don't go to the school and we sure enough don't go to the institution.
Wow.
So as I think everybody's here is clergy and, in a pastoral capacity. Is that correct? So how is that being, what are you guys doing as far as in your teaching, your preaching? And again, I'm always one that's saying that the church is our foundation. So how are we sorting through this and deterring this whole thing?
So let me start this off. Let me start this off by saying,
you already frowned.
It's hard with the exception of Pastor Peyton, it is hard for, now it's just me, just me.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that as long as the pastor is co-opt or involved in or benefits from oppressive systems, that they are just as much a part of that system. And if you are creating a environment in church that is just as mindless as what they are conditioning children to do in school and in prison, this mindless, there's some mindless things that we do, and we call it Black tradition, and it ain't. It's nothing Black traditional about everybody slap high five with your neighbor and tell your neighbor and 150 people or 250 people or 1,000 people do this, or everybody stand up and lift your hands. That is something. It's something wrong with that. It's something wrong with that. But also when you preach a gospel that is narcissistic,
my Lord,
and self-involved, a narcissistic, that a gospel that is more in love with the Tyree, you'll get a kick out of this, with the Jesus or with the Christ, with the Christ action, you know, with the Christ action, and not with the Christ being.
Right.
You know, that gospel that is in love with the Christ action, but not with the Christ being. You are creating a generation of people who are spiritually inept and incapable of seeing the hurt and harm and degradation of community and being able to say, this is wrong. And so you start talking about what creates the environment that makes lynching in the 21st century a thing. Not just the school is complicit. Not just the institution is complicit.
The church is.
But the church is too.
Wow.
Pastor Peyton, I see your wheels turning. I see your wheels.
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
Well, brother, you know, I have been frustrated with the church for a very long time. And it wasn't until Ebony was forced into bankruptcy in December 2020 that I even decided to come back to organized institutional convention work. So my church historically has been a part of the National Baptist Convention USA over the years. I'm currently social justice chair for NBCA. But just thinking about, you know, NBC USA, back when J.H. Jackson was president, you know, we all know that the mindlessness and the self-aggrandizement that many clergy expressed at that time was what led to the putting out of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was very socially conscious about a number of the issues that affect our people and was motivated toward helping with our liberation. And that was just not a focus of many of our pastors and churches back then when King and others were put out, and you had the development of Progressive National Baptist Convention. And I will say that even today, unfortunately, in 2024, with so many different social issues that plague many of our communities across the country, there are a number of pastors who are just interested in, like you just said, the doings of the cross, right? The substance of their sermon pretty much amounts to taking Jesus to the cross, and he got up, you know, and that's, while we all appreciate the work of Christ, we know that Jesus wasn't just about that one moment, but like you said, his life and ministry was dedicated to uplifting the marginalized and the oppressed and creating opportunities for those, particularly those who were in bondage and those who were held as captives. And so as we continue to dissect what has happened to us as a people, I think Brother Anderson was spot on with reference to some of our historical context, or I like to say historical traumas that have led us to kind of where we are today. When it comes to mass incarceration, while we did uplift some of those themes, you just think about drug use, right, and drug addiction. It's not a Black thing. And I think what we learned in the pandemic, when the opioid overdose deaths were occurring across America, now you have states that are becoming trauma informed. You have a lot of resources that are being allocated and set aside to address the opioid epidemic, and in large part because it was characterized as largely as a white problem. But anytime a human being experiences trauma and toxic stress, that human being is plunged into a place where they have to develop some type of coping mechanism just to keep moving forward. And oftentimes when people have not been educated or trained in positive coping, the natural inclination for traumatized people is to look for some type of substance use. And I think the traumas that so many of our communities experienced in the 40s, even in the Nixon administration, when there was a quote unquote war on drugs, it became more focused in targeting Black communities. I mean, the drugs were put into our communities, and then as our people dealt with the traumas of structural poverty and so many other issues that historically have affected our people over the years, that cocaine, which our people could not afford, which then became crack, completely destroyed the Black family. And it was the underpinnings of mass incarceration, to which today there are still a significant number of Black men and women who are doing life sentences because of crack cocaine possession. Whereas that same amount of crack cocaine, if it were powder, we know those people, if they did time, they certainly didn't do the time that many of our Black brothers and sisters who have been criminalized and demonized as a result of that substance back in the day. So there are a number of challenges, and I think the church today, I am a little bit optimistic, because I'm seeing that there are more educated clergy who are, the scripture says, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." And historically, the Black church was the one place where a Black man could get respect outside of his community and in society. Oftentimes, the church is where Black men looked for that level of respect, and some then took that to be a call in ministry. And in those persons, as long as they could develop a good hoop and make people holler and feel good, that became the order of the day in most of our churches, that still unfortunately lingers today. So I'm hopeful that as the landscape is changing, we're having more educated parishioners in our pews, which is therefore almost demanding more pastors to become educated in their craft and really understanding these issues, so that we can begin to develop a more comprehensive strategy to address the issues that have systemically challenged us and left us in the plight that we're in today. The last thing that I'll say, which I feel has always been a strength of the church, the Black church and HBCUs have always been our central institutions of power, but we have not leveraged that power in ways that translate into policy advocation and moving the needle with respect to changing policies that affect our communities. And I think that in years prior, there has been a position that churches shouldn't be involved in politics. But I think that's beginning to change as people are starting to see the real implications of not being involved in day-to-day politics. Politics is not about what's happening in Washington, D.C. Politics is what's happening to us every day. It affects all of our lives, our family lives. And I think clergy are going to have to be more mindful in our engagement with politics and thinking through some of the systemic challenges that affect us so that we can begin to reclaim some of that tradition that I think was lost after the death of our brother, Martin Luther King Jr.
Wonderful. Listen, we are just in our first section, but yielded. Let's take a break. Let's kind of let that sit for a minute.
Yes, sir.
And let's take a break, and we're gonna come back and see why the spirit of Ida B. Wells is screaming at us and calling out to us in the 21st century. So I hope you guys can stick around for the next segment. Let's break.
Commercial time.
Sunday, April 14th, Houston would never be the same. It's the Gigantic Gospel Concert 2024, and it's one gigantic lineup featuring Pastor John P. Key.
Never shall forget.
Kalonzo Given.
This ain't no ordinary world.
Also, Doc McKenzie and the Highlight, the Canton Spirituals, Lisa Noel Smith and the Brown Singers, the Cardi Cortez.
Let me testify. I've been through depression.
Luther Barnes and the Sunset Jubilee, the group Fire, and hosted by the country preacher Carlos Daniels. It's Pastor John P. Key. Kalonzo Gibbons, Zacardi Cortez, and more. Sunday, April 14th at the Fountain of Praise in Houston. Get your tickets now at ticketweb.com or eventbrite.com.
Have you ever met a single?
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives. With one call, you can be on the phone with addiction specialists across the country who will guide you on the next steps to find the freedom and healing you desperately need. Call Addiction Helpline America at the number below. We provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives. One phone call today can change your life forever. Don't wait another minute for that right moment to be set free. Take that bold step and call Addiction Helpline America at the number below or visit www.addictionhelplineamerica.com.
Call 877-314-1645.
Are you looking for an amazing worship experience? Well, J. Spivey Productions presents the Giant Gospel Concert 2024. This is going to be the event of the year, featuring Pastor John P. Key. Also, artists such as Kalonzo Gavin, Zacardi Cortez, Luther Barnes and the Sunset Jubileers, Lisa Noel Smith and the Brown Singers, Dr. McKenzie and the Highlight, the group Fire, and the Canton Spirituals, and hosted by the country preacher Carlos Daniels. You don't want to miss it. Get your tickets now. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, ticketwebs.com, also at jspiveyproductions.company.site. What are you waiting for? Get your tickets, and we look forward to seeing you there.
And get there. Why am I not co-hosting the one in Houston? I don't know. But I'll be at the one in Dallas, and the one here in Houston will be co-hosted by Mother Minnie. So get your tickets, get on up and get out. Listen, it's your girl Yielded. We are here in this conversation with Pastor C. Allen Stewart. We got Dr. Keon Payton here. We got Reverend Come Anderson. Dr. Tyree Anderson is in the building, y'all. And we are in this conversation. If you've seen some of the titles, seen some of the, thought-provoking questions that we were placing on social media, was to get you involved and concerned in this conversation of lynching by another name. And so we've kind of got in this thing knee deep, and we're not going to worry about who's here. We got what we got. I think with all of the ministry and the academia that we got in here, that would have just been a little plus. But Reverend Stewart, we're going to go in here. But before we go, Dr. Anderson.
Yeah, you better do it. You better do it now.
Good, so I had dropped it, but I'm gonna go ahead and get it right now because I like my job and I'm gonna keep it, okay?
Dr. Anderson, I got to get ready to get off and go to the juvenile detention center. We break the school to prison pipeline by keeping them from going. I got to get off in a minute. Can I get something in a second? My prison number is 258490.
This radio station takes no responsibility.
We got some feedback.
All right, Reverend Owens, I had to drop that disclaimer in case you might want to say something that was inappropriate. You're friends with Pastor Stewart, so I know everything and anything.
What are you trying to say? What you trying to say? But I want to start with Carmon Owens. Go ahead, drop your knowledge.
So the dehumanization process that allows this genocide to be tolerated is the scope of the significance of it begins with the fact that my number is 258490, and that number has been engraved into my soul. They told me I would never forget that number, and you don't forget that number because the institutionalization process of the dehumanization process causes your family to treat you by that number. All of the employees treat you by that number. Now, this is going to be held accountable before the Lord, because when he restored Peter, he told him, take care of my sheep. And the people behind the fence that are dying are the brothers, sisters, uncles, nieces, nephews, sons, fathers of the sheep of the body of Christ. And that's why that whole Jeremiah 23 woe to the pastors is going to come down. One of the things we got to do is start looking at prison as a mission field. We don't have to go to Africa. We don't have to go over there and over there and over there. Our people are right here dying. Now, you know, prison is a perversion. The penitentiary is a perversion of what the Quakers tried to do with penitent row. Penitent row actually worked because once you showed you were penitent and you repaid your debt to society, then you were released back into the community. But the penitentiary is a perversion of this, where with the 13th Amendment, the second half of that 13th Amendment allows you to be a slave for the state because you're incarcerated. And particularly here in Alabama, the dehumanization process that you're just not even 3/5 of a person is because whole municipalities are balancing their budgets on the backs of prison labor. They're paying people $2 a day to do $17 an hour work. And the cost savings are just ridiculous, and they're addicted to that. And they got to have that. So now prisons have become a commodity all these years. They're an industry. They're an ecosystem. And they're not people anymore. Now, to close this out, we've got to start discipling people to get involved and organize, and the hedges and the highways and byways, and forget not the prisoners, because everybody has a relative, a friend, or a schoolmate who is locked up. You can't get away from this problem. And the deaths that are going on, no other community would allow this in their community. Like we've been allowing this right here. The death rate is unfathomable because we never know the real numbers. And when you find out the real numbers, it's 2 or 3 years later in the annual report, and the people who were guilty have gone on somewhere else. This dehumanization process, we've got to get back to caring for our people. That's somebody's grandboy. That's somebody's father. That's somebody's uncle. And they're not just numbers. And I hate that I have to go, but I got to go down here to the juvenile detention center and make sure they don't go down there to prison. I salute all of you as my brothers. I salute you, my sister.
Bless you.
Thank you so much. Come on, listen. And he's already opened the door to this next segment, because Ida B. Wells, those of you who don't know, Ida B. Wells felt a pull, a drive, a determination to begin to record for posterity in the Red Record the names of men and women
who had been lynched.
After the death of one of her very close friends, she realized that lynching here at the doorway of freedom. I mean, we're talking about 25, 30 years post-emancipation, that the Black body was not safe, that emancipation was more dangerous than slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Hear what I just said. Her whole idea is that emancipation, freedom, was more dangerous because at least as a slave, people were obligated not to kill you. At least that.
Right.
But her contention is that the only way to bring about change is to awaken men and women to the horror that was being inflicted on the black body. Now you fast forward her writing of the Red Record. And now when you would think we have come so far, when you think that we are, according to some of our Republican elected officials, that we are no longer living in that time before time. Based on work that's being done around death in custody, Pastor Peyton, I came to find out that there are untold thousands, not hundreds, but thousands, hundreds of thousands, whose death at the hands or while in custody, either that's arrested. This is what Dr. Miller said, I believe. He said, Dr. Mitchell said in his podcast, he said that had George Floyd made it to the police precinct
we'd have never known
and died, we'd have never known about it. So why do you believe that we are seeing this? Has it always been there? Do you think it's always been there, just under the surface, and we just never thought about it? You made the statement that the COVID pandemic awakened us, gave us some eyes into spaces that we never thought about. Do you think it's always been there?
I think it's a yes.
Me, yeah, 1,000%. I think it's always been there. When who was it? Michelle Alexander wrote her book, The New Jim Crow. It was really how mass incarceration has been amassed for a new form of slavery. And I appreciate Brother Carmon's comments before he left there, because the difference is, and I think, like you said, you need a slave, right? Because you need that worker to be able to do whatever they need to do for free labor. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that the prison systems have become a replacement of that, because right now most of our prisons, it's just a steady pipeline of individuals going from third grade. They build prisons based on Black kids who can't read past the third grade who graduated from high school. Right. And in communities like Pontiac, where we have, graduating class of, 300 or 400 kids, the vast majority of those kids can't read beyond the third grade. And so, when we talk about the atrocities of what's happening in the prison industrial complex, while we can largely blame a system that structurally drives African Americans by disproportionate rates to incarceration, I think we have to also, when they say when you point one finger, you have several pointing back at you. We have a lot of fingers to point back at our own community, because unfortunately we have not taken this issue and really addressed it from a standpoint of not only calling out how the system has been treating African Americans, but really fighting from a local to a state to a national level. Just this past Saturday at my church, we sponsored a forum on Michigan prison reform, and we tied it to the primary election. And you talk about, I don't know who said it, but I heard it on this call, that if the things that happened to us happens to any other communities, they would have shut it down a long time ago. here we had the Michigan primary about 3 weeks ago. And with this issue of Gaza and Israel right now, here in Michigan, we have one of the largest Arab communities. And when the Biden administration was mum to not address this genocide that's taking place in Gaza, the Arab community in Michigan said, we're going to have a uncommitted campaign against Joe Biden. And we're going to organize in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, the Arab community organized, and they turned out the vote in record numbers. I think there were 100,000 uncommitted votes that they were able to organize and mobilize within 2 weeks of saying we've had enough with how this administration is ignoring issues that are important to our community. And in a swing state like Michigan, we're going to make some noise about it. And not only did they make noise here in Michigan with over 100,000 folks, but literally we saw the administration pivot and the president make the Israel-Gaza war a point for him to address during the State of the Union. And we saw humanitarian aid being flooded in. And now we see strong language coming from the administration condemning Netanyahu for the atrocity that was happening in this war. My question is, when you have the numbers of African-American pastors, just in Memphis, several last month in February, the joint board session of the 4 Black conventions convened, right? ITEJ, we put on the 2-day symposium for pastors, but I am disappointed that we did not come out of that meeting with an agenda item that we could organize and rally our folks around similarly to the polls to start making noise about issues that affect us. The last thing I'll say is that, the brother talked about the Constitution. In most of our constitutions, there's language with respect to slavery and indentured servitude still on the books. And what's crazy here in Michigan, and we addressed it on this past Saturday with a Republican state senator and several Democratic legislators, you had Republicans in our state last year in September who tried to advance changing the language of the Michigan Constitution to strike the language of slavery and indentured servitude. But the Democrats are the ones who tabled it and didn't do anything about it. And we have Democratic control in the Michigan State House, state legislature, and we have a Democratic governor. And so I began to ask the question, when the African-American community is still the backbone of the Democratic Party, why is it so difficult for us to get issues addressed that affect us? And I think that question needs to go back to our pastoral leaders, because anytime there's an election, they run to our churches, but most of our pastors are just happy to get a picture with the politician instead of having a policy that we can address and make sure that when these elected officials are in office, that we hold them accountable and responsible to addressing issues that affect us in meaningful ways.
And that is where this whole idea of I should not have to worry about losing my life if I'm doing time. Like, that shouldn't be. Dr. Anderson, but here's the catch. Dr. Anderson. I was amazed to discover the hypocrisy of the police system, of the justice system, period. We want police to do what they were never designed to do. We want the Department of Justice or Department of Corrections to do what it was never designed to do, which is protect life.
That's true.
Don't just leave me right there, Dr. Anderson. Come
on.
What?
What you want me to say? I mean, the formation of the Department of Justice comes after, and it comes during Reconstruction. The purpose of the Department of Justice is so that Black people are made whole in this nation. That's the sole origin of the Department of Justice. And now it appears to be everybody except us.
Everybody but us.
You know what I'm saying? So when we start looking at the whole penal system, because see, I got a philosophical difference compared to the rest of this nation, that there's a difference between imprisonment and incarceration. See, incarceration is the reason why black people can't come together and do what the Arab community did in Michigan, because the black community is incarcerated. They're not in prison. Imprisonment happens after you have been incarcerated.
Wow.
So you're dealing with the fact that a system has been established in order to create, lack of a better term, Isabella Wilkerson, it's been established to create a caste. And there's a caste inside of the black community. So black leaders can't come together because they're too busy trying to break into the next level of caste, which is the lower level of white power and white authority. But they have set it up for this structure. And I got a chance to witness this when I was over in Ghana, that there's a tiered structure and that we have to operate according to this tier, which means that black churches are not going to speak out against injustice. They're going to try to get people to say, look, it's done here. We ain't getting nothing. Live right, go to heaven, spend the rest of your time with Jesus. That's where the challenge is. Going all the way back to yield this question about what are y'all doing? The question is, what are you preaching? How are you understanding this text? How are you understanding your purpose? How are you understanding your responsibility to go down to the jail and get the people down there to know who you are? So when they say, my pastor is Dr. Tyree Anderson, they say, oh, well, we're going to call him because we know him. If you are not involved, you can't make a difference. It doesn't matter how much education you got, doesn't matter how much training you got. If you are afraid to invest yourself in the misery and the suffering of the people and to stand there and to support them, knowing that your government funding might get cut off, knowing your grant money might dry up because it's time to renew, but you scared to say something. A lot of people, before they die physically in custody, they are already dead. And they died long before the handcuffs were put on them. They died before they were taken into that jail. They died before they were sentenced to draconian years inside of a federal or for-profit or state prison. They were already dead. They're just living out the last days that they have been afforded by somebody who said, we're going to at least house you, work you for free, give you some bad food, and we're going to make $1 million off of you. We're going to trade you on the New York Stock Exchange. We're going to trade you on the NASDAQ. We're going to work with the companies that going to put the beds in there, that's going to put the frames in there, the ones that's going to make the bras for the women, that's going to make the pants and the shirts for the men. We're going to work with them. And we're going to kill you, but we're going to kill you slowly. Mm-hmm. And if you get out, you will never be whole. And the only thing you will want to do is come back in here. They're already dead. How do we get them to live in the midst of a cemetery that we call the hood?
Now, I mean, we are.
Dr. Payton's got a hard stop. I want him to be able to get his last remarks out before he has to leave.
Yeah,
if that's okay.
I'm enjoying the commentary. Yeah, brother Stuart, I'm going to have to. Unfortunately, I do have to leave about it's 6:15, almost 6:15 my time. So in about 4 minutes, I'll have to go. But I'll just say to that, Brother Anderson, I think the church just needs to get back to her core missional values. I think that white Christian nationalism has unfortunately influenced many of our brothers and sisters in ministry, and they have lost sight of the liberation theology that I think is endemic in who we are as a people and a people of faith. And that Luke 4 text, Jesus stepping into formal ministry, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me for these many reasons. I think we've got away from that. And I think when we begin to focus on the least, the left out, and the lost, you have to think about this prison population. But truth is, many of our churches don't even have prison ministries, where we don't even visit those who are incarcerated, let alone be thinking about what types of programs and services that we can have to bring people back to wholeness or to wellness. And so I think that really getting back to our core missional values, hopefully, will then be able to dictate the types of ministries that can be more resemblant to the meaningful things that we can do to get people back on their feet, right? When people are released from prisons, a lot of times these folk, they go to the street. They have nowhere to go. Many of our churches, we don't have the infrastructure to receive returning citizens and to give them the types of soft skills and hard skills and social training, etc., that we know that brothers and sisters need in order to thrive once they're released from prison. So one of the things that I'm working on, and I'm trying to get other churches to join, and that is there are a number of prisons and even county jails across the country right now that are beginning to do some of this work. Just this past Tuesday in Genesee County, there's a young white brother, Sheriff Chris Swanson, who has a program called Ignite. As a matter of fact, there was a brother who's on the city council of Birmingham, Alabama, and also he's on with the Birmingham Sheriff's Department down there. He was one of the ones visiting last week from Alabama to learn about this program Ignite, to bring it back to Alabama. And what the program does is that while people are currently incarcerated, they're providing them with skilled trade certification programs, so that they have, once they get out, their GEDs, their diplomas, their certification in welding and other types of things, where once they have these certifications, they can become gainfully employed. These are the types of programs that not only are evidence-based in reducing recidivism, that the Black church needs to own, right? Why do we have programs that we know are working and we're not at the forefront of illuminating these programs and saying we want to see our tax dollars be dedicated in replicating these models that we know are working? And so I think those are the low-hanging fruit opportunities that organized churches can begin to leverage our collective to say, hey, here are some things that we know are really happening that's benefiting our communities. It also benefits the bottom line of corporations because, right, you have a complete sector of industry that doesn't have skilled workers. So how can we marry the opportunity of working with incarcerated, getting them healed, addressing their mental challenges or their mental health issues that in many cases may have led them to being incarcerated in the first place? There are tangible programs and services that we know are working. It's just a matter of us coming together and putting forth the policies to make certain that these programs and services are being replicated around the country. The last thing I'll say is MBCA, our headquarters is at Simmons College of Kentucky, which is an HBCU. Louisville, Kentucky has one of the highest adverse childhood experiences rates in the country. Kentucky has one of the highest incarceration rates on the planet. But a small HBCU like Simmons College currently has 200 incarcerated persons in the prisons who are matriculating through the college so that when they finish their time, they'll have a degree before they get out. Why can't we expand these types of programs to why can't our HBCUs own these types of spaces where when we know that we have been disproportionately affected as a people group, then how do we take these models as a community and then begin to put them together in structured ways where they can have a substantial impact in providing our people with the tools and resources that they need to heal and to thrive once they are returned back into many of our communities.
Thank you so much, Pastor Payton. Before you jump off, tell the people how, look, if I want to get involved in the work that you're doing, tell our listeners and people watching on social media how they can get involved with the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. So we would love for persons to visit our website at www.itej.org. Once you go to the website, there's a link you can click called Get Involved. And when you click that link, Get Involved, it will show the many ways that you can share with us in the work that we're doing across the country. We have a very strong Interns for Change program where we have about 16 HBCUs that are working with us right now, providing us students who are working with us. And so there are a number of ways that you can volunteer, you can donate your financial resources or donate your time. So there are many ways to get involved in visiting our website, itej.org. I think there's a misspelling there that I see on the screen.
Sorry.
No problem. Just add a J right there after the E. And itej.org would be the best way for you all to connect with us. And I would look forward to other pastors getting involved. I will also say that ITEJ, we're now a part of the strategic plan through 2028 of the National Baptist Convention of America, where we are training our constituents around adverse childhood experiences, their impact, excuse me, and what we can do collectively to develop the types of ministries that have evidence-based mental health interventions that many of our churches can be doing as well. You know, most of our churches are struggling right now with trying to pay bills and keep the lights on, et cetera. Well, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for pastors to be thinking about how we can repurpose our buildings as community assets, to be a partner with government agencies, behavioral health organizations, community reentry programs, where our churches can become hubs in providing programs and services that will help to uplift our collective. And so we're working through NBCA right now, and then also with some of our other conventions as well, in providing these types of training opportunities. And so we would love to connect with any pastors or organizations and agencies that might be interested in working with us in that way.
Thank you so much, Pastor Peyton, for jumping on and sharing your expertise and lending your voice. And we look forward to continued conversations with you in the future. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for it. Thank you for the good work and for uplifting this very critical issue. It's most important. And I appreciate all of you for your time and the conversation that we had today.
Thank you, Dr. Peyton.
All right, take care.
So, look.
Well, let me say that I don't want to do a shameless plug, but I'm gonna do a shameless plug. Dr. Peyton said we need to go back to what our purpose was. That was the whole purpose of my doctoral work. That was the whole purpose of my book, because the Black church has lost its vision. It has become so inundated with white evangelical theology, a theology that is rooted in oppression, that we have decided who's right and who's wrong, not based on spiritual guidance, but by what appears to be right. There's a lack of spiritual insight that we have in many of our Black churches today. And this is a conversation that Pastor Stewart and I were having a little bit of on yesterday, that one of our great challenges that we have is that we don't know who we are. Now, I just came back from Ghana. And I'm not looking at all that violence. Now watch this, because see, people are saying that the answer to our problems, that if we want to solve this problem, being lynched, not by a tree, but by being in custody.
Yes.
If we want to solve the problems in our communities, we need to address poverty. That's the argument. We need to address poverty. Poverty is the reason. We live in a capitalistic society. People need to come out of poverty. Well, I was just over in Ghana. I just got back on Thursday. I saw poverty, but you know what I didn't see? I didn't see all that murder. I didn't see all that gun violence. I didn't see all the shenanigans. I didn't see folk walking around half naked, getting on TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat showing everything that God gave them. I didn't see that over there. But what I saw were people who had dignity, people who understood who they were, and people who understood the value of the community over the individual. Whereas here, community is only important if you help me get to where I gotta go. And so this, I'm glad to hear that the convention is at Simmons College. But most HBCUs want to be white universities.
Ooh, mighty God. I think I can go to commercial right there.
I think that's where we go to commercial. We are knee deep into this conversation. Look, this conversation about death in custody has so many tentacles because part of what makes this vulnerable people group a target is the fact that there's nobody on the outside advocating for them.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good spot.
And Dr. Anderson, I'm gonna put this book up here, but I'm gonna play something over here, and you can keep talking about this book, okay?
That'll be good. That'll be good.
Struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol.
Go ahead.
And want to be set free from the chains of addiction.
This particular book is what I put together, released it in 2018. But looking at the idea that the solution to incarceration, again, incarceration is not going to prison. You were already incarcerated before you went to prison. Prison is imprisonment. Incarceration happens through your school system, through your local politics, happens through your local media. It happens in your the fact that you don't have banks, but you got payday lenders in your community that you got to try and negotiate money with. Those are examples and forms of incarceration. I believe that the Black church has the solution to incarceration. I believe the Black church can actually create jobs. I believe the Black church can transform lives. I believe the Black church can continue to be that major threat that it was in the day and time where paddle rollers were trying to catch us, and when overseers became officers, in the words of KRS-One. And so when you take a look at it, the Black church can be that impetus of change to transform this nation. And I believe that this nation is in trouble because the Black church has lost its vision. When the Black church knew who it was, America was not operating in the capacity that is operating now. When you got Black folk leading Black churches that don't understand Black people, and they are instead using Black people and fleecing them. Not to mention this brother in Brooklyn who finally got caught up after trying to fleece his congregation after he had $1 million worth of jewelry so-called stolen from him. You got to deal with the reality that everybody's been called to do this. And those that have need to get the church back online and back on track. Because the only way we're going to turn this thing around is it's not going to happen in Washington. It's not going to happen in D.C. Whatever the capital is in Texas, it's not going to happen in Texas. It's not going to happen anywhere in the United States. It's going to happen right there at the Black church. The Black church is the impetus of change that we need, and we need to get back to.
So check it out, y'all folks in the choir stand. We got even more. We got even more of this heavy conversation. Yield to make me come back soon. I know y'all be tired of me. Yield to make me come back soon. Sooner than later. And so
since when can yield to make you do anything?
Exactly.
Since when can anybody make you do anything? So, we just gonna play this. Don't worry about it.
Hey, yo, Antoine Hilton from Long Island, New York. And I'm rocking my main girl, Yielding, the Fiyah Show.
All right. Listen, y'all, we are in this conversation. It kind of went left and right and back and forth, but we are getting this information out to you. Again, we're going to dive into this lynching by another name. We're going to get into a different kind of, a different facet of it. But just before we do that, I think we're going to, put a little bit of news in here that you can use. Y'all need to hear the news a little bit. Y'all need to know what's going on, all right? So again, we don't offer you news like everybody else does. We do it in our own way. Y'all know Cousin Al. Cousin Al gonna bring y'all some news.
Oh, what's good, everybody? No. I got to be professional as a minister and as a
What is around your neck?
Staff pastor here on the Fiyah Show. Praise the Lord, everybody. This is your boy, Cousin Al, Pastor Al, with your dedicated news right here on the Fiyah Show. It's Tuesday. Y'all know what we do. We give you. Huh? Oh, you don't. Okay. I don't supposed to have a collar. Okay, hold on. Let me try this again. Throw that away. Take two. Hey, everybody. It's your boy, Cousin L, right here on the Fiyah Show with your dedicated news. This is the news you can use right here. This ain't me. This the news you can use, and I'm trying to be professional so I can get like on the. I want a Stella. That's what I want. I want a Stella. So on the Stella, I'm gonna get as Angela Bassett and watching this movie. Roll my intro. All right, so check it. Let's jump right into it. TikTok is on the clock, and when the clock strikes 12, it's gonna be taken over by the ops. Man, let me tell you, they say TikTok is close to being banned in the United States. They've already passed the bill halfway, and they're trying to pass it through the rest. Whoever got to sign it. I hope it run out of ink when they get that pen and try to sign it. But it's a big deal. They saying that people are tracking us and people are following us from other countries and stuff, and they want to use a protective measure, which means get rid of TikTok. Not student loans, stuff that we really need to get rid of, but they say TikTok. Here's the story.
The legislation comes amid growing concern over the Chinese government's ability to access data collected by TikTok.
This is a serious issue. We didn't come to it lightly.
Last week, a House committee unanimously passed the legislation that could potentially ban the social media app here in the U.S.
Algorithms, tracking people. It's dangerous for our young people, and we got to find a way to rein it in.
As it stands, the bill would force the Chinese company ByteDance to sell its ownership of TikTok or face a U.S. ban.
What we're dealing with here is very specific concerns about the structure of this company and its relationship with the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party.
The FBI and the FCC warned ByteDance could share TikTok user data with the Chinese Communist Party, something TikTok denies. But some lawmakers worry a ban could limit the rights of Americans.
So yeah, this is alarming. This is very alarming. And the Fiyah Knights have already been hitting me up saying, hey, are you and Gilded getting something together? Sheikah and Tamika said they will march around City Hall naked. And y'all don't want to see that until, they say, hey, we're going to keep TikTok alive because, everybody not mentally stable to lose anything right now. If y'all remember when Michael Jackson died, 12 people committed suicide on a real note. And that tells me he had 12 disciples and was a whole Jehovah's Witness. But TikTok is such a huge part of these kids' life. You think depression is on the rise. If you take this, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for me. I already know how I'm going to act as soon as they close it down.
Oh, God, take me right now. I don't want to live anymore without my baby.
So, you know, I'm just saying, I'm with it. If y'all want to shake it like a salt shaker in front of City Hall, just let me know the date and the time. I'll be there with a camera so we can get footage for the Fiyah Show, because we shall have victory. Speaking of victory, number 2, Fantasia Barrino, Taraji P. Henson, and The Color Purple all won awards on this past weekend at the NAACP Awards. Also, Usher was awarded Entertainer of the Year. It was a wonderful ceremony. So many people just showed up, and so much God was in the building. When I say that, that means so many people carried the love of God, and they expressed it in their acceptance speeches. And you could see the love that they had for Christ and how they were raised. And that's what's missing in today's world. So check this out. Now, look here. If you ain't feel that, I don't know what's wrong with you. That's a woman who was on American Idol, who was at the bottom 3 of American Idol at one point, went to win American Idol, came from nothing, became something, and God saw her to the top. Let me tell you something. If you didn't feel the power in that, I don't know what to. You must be dead, deaf, dumb, dyslexic, or diabetic, or maybe all 5. But I'm here to tell you that God can do it if you let him. That thing felt good, and that thing was sweet. That thing was sweeter than a Rice Krispie treat. I ain't talking about the kind y'all be eating. I'm talking about the regular ones. But congratulations to all of the winners that night. It was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. If you missed it, go back and check the replay. And next year, we gonna be there. We gonna be there, and we getting footage. And I'm sitting next to Rihanna, because she coming, and I'm gonna sit next to her and put her husband on the other side of the building. You know, I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but go to the next story. All right, number 1, and I put on my clergy materials. Preachers, let's make sure that we are mindful of what we're saying in the pulpit, and some of the things that maybe the babes in Christ may take the wrong way. You know, us who are mature in Christ, us who got all our senses, and, you know, we ain't dingy crazy. Us, we get it. But somebody in the audience may not understand what you're trying to say when you're saying it. So we have to be careful and preach and know our audience, and understand that things are live, and understand that things are going to be on Instagram and reposted. And this preacher, I think his intentions were good, but it was taken out of context. Let's look at the contents of the context of the message.
A little bit, but I'm gonna give you this. Somebody told me one time I don't have to preach it all at the same time. I could cut it like Subway and give you a 6-inch in the morning and a 6-inch at night. That's not my style. I'm gonna shove this entire foot long down your throat.
Did you just say that? Now, granted, he may not have meant, let's give him the benefit of the I ain't know. He may have not known that was going to come out that way. And if his mind, because the Bible say, don't the Bible say, all holy, let all spiritual things be spiritual? So if he was in a spiritual, well, then Subway ain't in heaven, so I don't know how that was. Anyway, I don't know where he was coming from in his mindset, but the saints confused, and the confusement that's going around is the comments. I just, you know, I don't know, y'all. Let's just. Can we stick to just reading the Bible? I mean, I'm gonna just become a pastor, and I'm just gonna reach out the Bible and say, "Go home." I'm just gonna read the words that it say, "Go home." Like, did he know? Like, did he? I don't know. I've heard worse though.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all? You're crazy.
My bad, y'all. I got hot. But listen, pastors, preachers, teachers, evangelists, apostles, all y'all. Listen, man. If I was y'all, I'd make these people put their phones in a bucket on the way into the church, and on the way out they can get it, because you never know. People will record your one slip up They'll record that one moment that you said something that was a little different or a little out of line or out of the context. They will take that one moment and put it on dedicated. They'll put it on the internet, and then I just tell the news, and I have to tell the news because that's what you tell me to do is tell the news. So the Fiyah Show, that we're anointed to tell the news, and that's what I do. But I wouldn't tell y'all news. I like y'all. I mean, I know y'all. I mean, I like everybody, but be ye careful. All right, this has been your boy Cousin Al with your dedicated news. Yield it back to you in the studio. Oh, wait. Yield it real quick. Y'all know the Saved and Silly Cruise is coming up, right? Y'all know it's coming up October 31st. My cousin, Robert Nisi. Yeah. Her dad named Robert, her mama named Nisi. We ain't gonna talk about it, but she said that if you would like a ride, she's only charging $10 because she's driving her car to Galveston. So if you want to ride, now I'm gonna let y'all know she's holy all day long, and y'all gonna have church music all the way to the ship. So here's a sneak peek of what you can look forward to if you want to take that $10 ride.
Clearly, y'all not praying for Cousin Adam. Week after week, I ask you to pray for Cousin Al, and it seems either your prayers are not being answered or you're not praying them, Pastor Stewart.
Only $10.
I'm not
$10 for $10. You get a ride in a show. You get a ride in a show for $10.
I was expecting her teeth to come out because they was they was already leaning there.
I will. I would never eat Subway again.
Mighty hard.
Subway gonna be hard to order. I'm gonna be hard to order a sub sandwich at this point.
No, we ain't
meatball marinara.
We're not eating.
Because the first question they ask is 6-inch or foot long.
Oh my God. Pastor Stewart can't even stay in the screen for that one. Yeah, okay, yeah. So Pastor Stewart, I need you to take this conversation back over because I guess
Look, I mean
where's Garrett?
He blew up.
Like blew up or blew up? What? Don't worry about it. Pastor, just get us back on task, please, sir. Please, sir.
So listen, we're engaging around conversations about what's going on behind the walls of prisons. And we have been talking about these persons who, we think that they're out of sight, out of mind. Like if you're in jail, people sometimes stop taking your calls,
Mm-hmm.
All they want you to do is put money on their books. But this conversation is near and dear to my heart. One of our members unfortunately made some bad life decisions. And this young man from a good family ended up going to state penitentiary. And after being in jail and slated for release, had some peculiar sickness happen. 27-year-old young had a peculiar sickness that left him with stroke-like symptoms. They said he didn't have a stroke. They said he didn't ingest any poison, nothing, but he had stroke-like symptoms, heart murmurs, and respiratory issues. Mm-hmm. And 9 months post-release, this 27-year-old young man died.
Wow.
He just died. And he went healthy, but he gets released. Dr. Anderson helped me to lobby the warden, lobby our state representatives to try to get him released while he was sick, dying, to come home. But he died. And then I hear about people who die every day in custody.
Mm-hmm.
And my immediate mind jumps to, wait, I see this on my timeline, a police officer shoots somebody. And then I realize, no, there are people in jail. They're supposed to be there, because they were a DUI. They're supposed to be there because they are have a mental snap or mental break, and we're just holding them in a safe place until we can get them into a mental health facility. But all of a sudden, they're just dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. I repeat what I heard while investigating this health crisis, that we only count what is important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And in the podcast that I was listening to, I discovered, and I did not know this, Dr. Anderson yielded, I didn't know that the United States of America has the most spot on record keeping in the world. Except for people who die in custody.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing that we don't count. And then I heard of a young man who is, check this out. He is in medical emergency, Dr. Anderson. They transfer him to a hospital. And when the doctors say that he's going to die, they find a judge in the middle of the night to release him from prison custody so he can die as a free person.
Yep.
This is the bureaucracy and the harm of our current penal system. And while Dr. Payton talked about the holes that exist and how we can start having conversation about ministering to people when they come out of prison, and while Carmon was talking about the hurt that is inflicted on people in prison, Dr. Anderson, why is it? Why do you believe? Or what is the point? What's the result of incarceration? I mean, you worked in the Federal Bureau. You worked for the Department of Corrections. Why is it that so many people are dying in prison? Period. Let's just say that. Prison, jail, state penitentiary, whatever that is. Why are so many people dying in jail?
State prison is overcrowded. So that creates a violent environment right from the get-go, because people are sleeping on top of people. People are bumping into people. The living conditions are absolutely horrible. And so have that coupled with officers who are on the take, that are bringing contraband in. And so that creates, every time I look at a picture of somebody in prison with a cell phone, I know an officer brought that in.
Exactly.
Because that's contraband. That should not be the case. And so that's on the state level, but on the federal level, it's a lot more nuanced. It's nuanced. It's not necessarily overcrowded. But what you do have is you have what I saw. Now, this is just me. What I saw was a system of how to create drug addicts when they first come in.
Ooh, God.
I saw it. So what happened is 3 times a day they have something called pill line. So you go get your medicine in the morning, you get it at midday when the compound is open for main line or for lunch, and then when it opens again for dinner, you go back. And sometimes you go back at 9 o'clock, right before 9 o'clock, before everybody leaving, everything shut down for the night. And so what's happening is individuals are coming in, and because they are mentally, remember I told you there's a difference between incarceration and imprisonment. Because they don't know how to cope with prison, they are prescribed medicine to help them adjust. With the prescription to help them adjust, they have to take it because it is, if they don't take it, they can get in trouble. All right. So
most of them are diagnosed with excited delirium. I used to be a corrections nurse, and
so
diagnosis.
You know exactly where I'm going with this.
Yes, go ahead.
You know exactly where I'm going.
Yes.
And so what happens is they get addicted to this drug, and they take it. Say they got a 7-year bid. They take it every day for 7 years. When they get ready to go home from the feds, they get a 30-day supply. 30.
That's it. That's all.
Now, that particular drug could cost upwards of $700 to be fulfilled, to get filled in pharmacies. It's very expensive. And so what are they going to do? They got 30 days. They got maybe 6 months in a halfway house. They got to try and repair the relation with their family. Again, they're leaving imprisonment, going back into incarceration. So now once they get into the halfway house, they got to deal with all the chaos and headache from staff that's going to find a way to send them back to prison. So you got to tiptoe around staff at the halfway house, because I used to have to call the halfway house when they wouldn't let people go to church. And I told them, you can't stop that. And if you do try, I'm going to write you up, because I got more authority than you do. And they would just have to just go ahead and do it. But what happened is that they got to tiptoe and walk on eggshells at the halfway house. They got to get a job very quickly. They can't have all these visitors. They got all these restrictions, and they still got that medicine problem because they are addicted to a drug they did not come into the institution on. So what I would do in A&O, which is admission and orientation, I was the last presenter because my presentation was fire. Point blank.
Pun intended. I like that. This is the Fiyah Show. Go ahead.
It was point blank. Oh, I said it like that on purpose. It was absolutely the best presentation. And what I did was I convinced many of them not to go to pill line. Don't go to psychology and get the prescription. Because once you do, you're going to leave here with an addiction you didn't come in here with. I can show you, come to the chapel, and I'm going to teach you how to live. But if you go, when you leave, you're going to come right back. And Cassidy is right. It's a setup for recidivism. And so now once you hit that third time, guess what you got? You got 25 to life. So now you in custody. You can't raise your children. You can't see anything. You miss out on everything. And it's all because of that part. But then there's this other piece.
Right.
You got to ask yourself, why do all these women in the federal prison get hysterectomies? See, there's a whole nother piece to this.
It's another show, Dr. Anderson.
It's another show, but it ties into this whole idea of death, lynching by another name. And so when you start looking at how medical is ran in the federal system, they create drug addicts and kill you before you leave. Now, even though they got reentry programs, even though they got, great things that people can learn, you can learn HVAC, you can become an electrician, you become a cosmetologist, you can become a great landscaper, you can become a food service expert, you can, get out and start your own cleaning company because you were doing that in the institution. But if you're not mentally there, you're lynched by another name.
Definitely.
And so death comes by 1,000 different cuts. You just don't know which cut is going to do it. And so being able to have a impact or some insight, like for that young man that died, that man was broken. And because he was broken, there was nothing on the outside that could fix him.
Yeah. And even these deaths that do occur in there, as Pastor Stu was saying earlier, they're not recorded. There's no documentation of most of these deaths. And when they are recorded, they come out with these inconclusive outcomes.
Inconclusive or natural causes.
Natural causes. Because what's happening is these deaths are being investigated by a coroner.
Yep.
Who has no medical expertise whatsoever, and he's a county level elected position that he's in, and so they're all sticking together, and that's where, of course, Dr. Mitchell was going to bring the insight in with the forensics, the pathologist basically being able to do a thorough medical examination to see, because they have only 3 or 4 classes of what they're, categorizing these deaths as, and most of them are inconclusive. And so
inconclusive, natural causes,
undetermined
murder.
Yeah.
Undetermined. And here we sit with, I think one of the first funerals I did here at Divine Faith Church was actually of a white gentleman who died in prison, in the county lockup. It was weird for me because when I asked his family what happened to him, guess what they said to me?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, did somebody do some act of violence to him? We don't know.
And they will likely never tell you, because in reality, they should be held responsible for that death. And because they're supposed to be held responsible for that death, if they can leave it as inconclusive, if they can say somebody murdered that person, they can say that it was a beef between them and we ain't had nothing to do with it. I mean, they can come up with a 1,000 reasons why someone died, except for why they died.
At the hand of an officer, or as a result of something an officer did.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's never going to be.
Or the fact that the prison itself is so antiquated and old that.
Oh, you mean like dying by mold, and they'll never say that they died because they were living with mold?
Damn. Or the fact that the prison has rats who
infestation
food, and they digest this rancid food, or that the water is toxic.
Yep.
And has lead in it.
I mean, it's a ton. Lead painting the prisons that ain't never been repainted, and the paint got lead in it. I mean, there is a number of reasons why people have died in custody. And the reality is, we will never know the full scope, and we'll never know the truth. And all of this kind of historically, Pastor Stewart, all of this historically traces back to the plantation.
And get out of my head Get out of
And
my head, doctor.
I'm gonna take it back even further. When I was in Ghana this time, I've been several times. But when I was in Ghana this time, just re-listening to the story of how our ancestors marched some 700-800 miles, and many of them with chains on them, and women having their menstrual cycles still being required to walk, and they are almost dead, but they're in custody. Just kind of put in that context. Those that died, they just threw them to the wild animals. They threw them in the rivers and the ravines. They just discarded them. And as they kept going, when they finally got to past Anson Manso, which is called the Last Bath, and made it down to Elmina and Cape Coast, those that were dead, they threw them in the water, threw them in the Atlantic. Then once they got them on the ship, they died on the ship, they threw them in the Atlantic. Where am I going with this? They're all in custody. This is not new for them to not tell us why or what happened. They don't care
What
about
about
why or what happened.
and how quickly and hastily they are to just discard?
Because we're not humans. That's one of the major components that we oftentimes don't talk about, because we don't want to say that they don't see us as human beings. They don't see us as human beings. I mean, this guy that's running for the White House now, that has 91 indictments.
Well, you know, they took some back.
Okay,
You know,
he now got 85. Okay, he got 85. So they took away 6. So he got 85, if my number is right, or something along those lines. The point that I'm making is that he just announced that people who are illegal aliens are not people. They are not human beings. He said that. So now, with him saying that, how many of his rancid, rank, repulsive, raggedy followers are going to say, I can just go kill them because they're not
people.
And that has always been a part of the existence in this. You know, after reading Wilkerson's book, after watching Origin, sitting in that space, like sitting in that space, I have yielded. We got to stop calling stuff racist.
It ain't.
It's because it's a caste system, you know, and here we sit and we don't see the threads that if we don't care about the people on the low run of life,
right?
If we don't, I'm trying not to cuss. If we don't give a care about those who are in our society looked over, that person who is the least, if we don't care about the people who are incarcerated, we make it easier for another group of people to not care about us.
Yep.
We make it easier for us to say, you know, this subgroup of people are not human.
Yep.
Or they don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it easier for them to continue to pass legislation.
Yep.
Against the female body.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you can't see how a woman being forced in custody to give birth to a child, strapped to a bed.
Listen, I saw it.
Better than that, let me just give you this real life story here. 6-month pregnant female. 9 times out of any 10, you see a female that's 6 months pregnant. It's obvious. Had not been examined by the jail physician, medical examiner, to determine that she was pregnant. So therefore, they did not treat her like she was pregnant. Chained and shackled her hands behind her. And we all know how pregnant women walk when they big pregnant. It's a waddle and hands are necessary. Chained her, removed medical devices that were inserted intravenously in her arm, in her veins prior to being arrested. This is medication she was on, took it from her because they said it was contraband, did not get her, immediate medical attention, assessment, anything, didn't give her any medication, didn't give her anything. And there is a long commute. Now I'm giving y'all a story. I'm gonna give y'all real details in a minute. Long commute from the Harris County jail down underneath the tunnel to the courthouse. So she could not walk, could not carry herself, and continued to pass out and fall down on the ground, and was thrown in a little holding cell midway and left there. Now, if you know anything about jail, they take you early in the morning and you stay all day until everybody sees the judge.
Yep.
She was there, 6 months pregnant, left in a holding tank. There's absolutely nothing in there, not even a toilet. On a cement slab there, pregnant. And when they came to find her, she was unconscious. No care, no nothing. But they said, we didn't know she was pregnant.
And that says to me, Dr. Anderson, says to me, Yilda, that slavery never ended.
It hasn't. It's just,
and for all of you that's watching, everybody that's listening right now, and you're saying, slavery ended with the Emancipation Proclamation. No, baby, it did not. No, boo-boo.
Pivot. It was a pivot.
It was a pivot. It was a pivot. And now we, especially if Dr. Anderson was talking about before the show started, that the Supreme Court handed down this, to say it's draconian is, I think it's an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
But that the Supreme Court handed down a decision today that
black codes
that mirror the Dred Scott decision.
Yep.
Let me just put that out.
Help us, Dr. Stewart.
Well, no, Dr. Anderson's the historian. The Dred Scott decision says what, Tyree Anderson?
That there's not any law that a white man will respect in regards to a black person. You can do whatever you want, and no white man is going to respect any law as it pertains to you and you being free. Because Dred Scott sued and said that because he was living in a state that was not a slave state. Certain states were created to be slave states, other states were created to be free states. Because he was living in a free state, but he came from a slave state, but he's living in a free state, he said, I ought to be free. And he said, absolutely not.
Not at all.
Absolutely not. You shall not be free. As a matter of fact, you going back into custody.
It's the language that no white man is bound to respect.
Any law
that prohibits or puts limitations on them as it relates to a black person.
Right.
The reason I even mention that is because when we talk about people dying in custody, let us not be confused. It is we as black and brown people are there by the bushel. So if thousands of people are dying in custody and they are unreported, they are black and brown people.
Well, let me add this. They don't have to die.
No, they don't.
I give you an example.
What do you mean, Dr. Anderson? You can't just make that statement and leave it right there. What do you mean they don't have to die?
There was a young lady, and I ain't gonna mention her name, but she was sick. bad sick. The doctor said, because they had to take her to the outside. The outside doctor said she needs to be transferred to a medical facility. Other than that, she's not going to make it. Administration would not transfer her. Instead, they put her in a local hospital, chained her to the bed, and it was more like a nursing home, but they chained her to the bed. And so I began to lobby, I need to call her family. No, you ain't calling her family. She all right, going back and forth. Finally, I contacted somebody above them, and they said, absolutely, I'll tell the warden. Warden was mad because I went above their head. When this person died, her family got there the evening before she died. That next day on the compound, I cussed the AW out for everything he was worth in front of everybody. And they said, oh my God, I ain't never seen Chap like that. I cussed him out for everything he was worth. And I told him, I said, God is going to punish you. God going to punish you because you an evil man. 2 months later, forced retirement. And on his way out, I said it the way they said it on Tombstone. I looked at him.
Not Tombstone.
I said, bye.
I think we need a commercial break. Dr.
I
Ernest.
think that's why we need to take a commercial break. But hey, look, y'all come back because we've got to define lynching historically and define it and define it again.
Yeah.
In the 21st century.
And we would love for you to be a part of this conversation. If you're over here in the quiet stand, continue to type your comments, questions. Call us if you'd like, 346-355-0100. Dr. Anderson is ready to answer all of your questions.
Or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction.
Dr. Anderson, you look like you didn't want to answer no questions.
I love to answer questions.
Oh, okay, all right. I was just making sure.
But as soon as I start, y'all gonna take me to a commercial break.
We be giving you time to regroup. We got to run the commercials.
I know. Let me yell at my son to bring me some water.
Okay, I'm gonna put some commercials in.
Sunday, April 14th, Houston would never be the same. It's the Gigantic Gospel Concert 2024, and it's one gigantic lineup featuring Pastor John P. Key.
Never shall forget.
Kalante Gibbon.
This ain't no ordinary word.
Also, Doc McKenzie and the Highlight, the Canton Spiritual, Lisa Noel Smith and the Brown Singers, the Cardi Cortez. Luther Barnes and the Sunset Jubilee, the group Fire, and hosted by the country preacher Carlos Daniel. It's Pastor John P. Key. Kalante Gibbons, Zacardi Cortez, and more. Sunday, April 14th at the Fountain of Praise in Houston. Get your tickets now at ticketweb.com or eventbrite.com.
Listen, if we even think you owe us money, you won't know what hit you. We'll put liens on everything you own. Raid your bank accounts, retirement fund, pension. You'll open up your paycheck and cry because we'll already have the money. We'll haul you into federal court and you might even go to jail. Hey, it's our job.
Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. Our experts will fight for you using IRS guidelines to stop any IRS actions like bank levies or wage garnishments. Plus, eliminate penalties and interest and reduce your past tax bill so you pay the IRS less. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
I'd have my mom call the number on the screen. You come see me alone. We'll work it out. Really, we will.
I'm your head digging Tuesday for South Louisiana. I'm hanging with you on the Fiyah Show, the Fiyah Show. I'm your head digging Tuesday.
Hey guys, Janice Harris here from Houston, Texas. H-Town, rocking with you then on the Fiyah Show.
Are you looking for an amazing worship experience? Well, G Spivey Productions presents the Giant Gospel Concert 2024. This is going to be the event of the year, featuring Pastor John P. Key. Also, artists such as Kalante Gavin, Zacardi Cortez, Luther Barnes and the Sunset Jubileers, Lisa Noel Smith and the Brown Singers, Dr. McKenzie and the Highlight, the group Fire, and the Canton Spirituals, and hosted by the country preacher Carlos Daniels. You don't want to miss it. Get your tickets now. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, ticketwebs.com, also at jspiveyproductions.company.site. What are you waiting for? Get your tickets, and we look forward to seeing you there.
What's up? It's your boy Cousin Al. Listen, man, the Saved and Silly Cruise is going down October 31st. We are leaving out of Galveston, that big G, and we're going to Cozumel. Hey, como está? Hey, me estoy muriendo como un perro abandonado. We're going out there, man. I don't even know what I just said, but all I know is I'm learning my Spanish little by little. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, and que pasó, bien. We finna be in Cozumel. That's what I want y'all to know. So go ahead, book your cabin with LD Entertainment so you can get into all the exclusive events. I just added an event, y'all. I just added an event, and they might get mad at me. They might, I might get fined for this, but hey, I'm gonna just take the charge. But I'm challenging every comedian on the boat, every comedian to a versus. I'm challenging y'all to a versus. Like, what's up? And I ain't talking about no jokes. I'm talking about a wet t-shirt contest. Because, you think you could beat me at a wet t-shirt contest? No. So, yeah, I might as well just keep on eating so I can win. Because, I just don't see. I ain't no use in me stop eating now. Because on the boat, I'm finna be eating burgers and fries and chicken and squirrel and all kind of stuff they gonna have on there. But anyway, go ahead and book your cabin while it's cheap. LD Entertainment. The number is somewhere around here. And why do I keep pointing like it's actually right here? It should be right here in front, down here. I don't know. Book it.
It's the Fiyah Show, hosted by Gildan. Turn up the radio if you feel it. We gon' talk, we gon' laugh and hear music. Whatever you gon' need for your amusement. Home of the lights, telling the world we're tight. Tune in on Tuesday night, and we gon' get it right. I'm blazing topics that get you rockin'. And with our ghetto catered news, ain't no stopping.
About lynching by another name. So we're going to take a moment just to dive into that and give a description. I think before we went to commercial break, Pastor Stewart said he wanted to kind of define that a little bit. So welcome back again to the Fiyah Show, which girl yielded, and Pastor Stewart and Dr. Anderson. We're here, y'all. What's going on?
Well, look, we jumped off and it was starting to get interesting. But I know people say, you know, lynching, that's a thing of the past.
Right.
That's not real. You know, we have young adults who say, you know, that's some stuff that went on way back when. But my first time going to Texas I think as a teenager, a late teenager, a lynching had taken place. That was just in the mid '90s. A young African American male was tied to a pickup truck
And
and
drug.
drove through the streets of Texas.
You was a teenager?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was like 90. I think that was 96, 95, 96. I think that was like in the 90s. Don't sit there and look at me like that. Anderson was a teenager too. He ain't that much older than me.
I graduated from high school in 92, so if it was 96, I was a little bit older.
You was a grown man.
I was a full grown man.
You could vote. He could vote.
I'm sorry, go ahead. The math was not math.
But at the when we think about what happens to Sandra Bland just a day or two ago, when we think about what happened to George Floyd, when we think about what happened to Trayvon Martin, and the list goes on and on, it is lynching.
Right.
It's lynching. And lynching is not just the depiction that you see in your history book of a person with a rope around their neck or torched on fire. Lynching is any form of mob violence. All right? It's mob or vigilante violence. The officer who dies on January 6, 2020, that was a lynching. A mob killed someone. Dr. Anderson, I saw you look up. What you about to say?
I had to go to my shelf because my historical training is in Reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the era of lynching.
Yeah.
And I had to go and pull because I had to remember exactly where I had read something. And I got my book, Race, the history of an idea in America. And so I began looking at what Gossett had put together. And Gossett writes a very definitive piece looking at race and social Darwinism. And what he does is he says he writes this about this guy named Ward, very intellectual, very brilliant guy named Lester F. Ward, who was born in Illinois of obscure parents and then taken as a boy to Iowa in a covered wagon. Very brilliant, but he's struggling because he's trying to understand intellectually why all this race stuff matters. So what Ward notes is that Negroes are tainted. This goes back to me again pointing out the fact that we're not human, right? So listen to this. The lower races, Ward maintained, experience an unusual amount of sexual desire for members of the higher races because they dimly and instinctively realize that the improvement of their own race is involved. A Negro who rapes a white woman, Ward declared, is impelled by something more than mere lust. Quote, this is the same unheard but imperious voice of nature commanding him at the risk of lynch law to raise his race to a little higher level, end quote. On the other hand, the fury of the white community in which such an act takes place is equally natural. Here you go. Although the enraged citizens who pursue, capture, and lynch, there go your mob right there, who pursue, capture, and lynch the offender, do not know any more than their victim that they are impelled to do so by the biological law of race preservation. So they lynch to preserve. Still, it is this unconscious imperative, far more than the supposed sense of outraged decency, that impels them to the performance of a much greater, more savage crime than the poor wretch has committed. And so when you start looking at this idea of lynching, while it's carried out by the mob, just using your January 6th analysis, people need to die in order for us to maintain our way of living. So if you are talking
Bring
about
that, wait, Dr. Anderson, because I don't want the listeners to miss what you just said. Whose way of living is being maintained if somebody dies?
the dominant culture, whatever that dominant culture is. It can be black over white, it can be brown skin over light skin, doesn't matter. But what they are doing is trying to preserve their way of living. And if I have to eliminate you in order to do it, AKA, if I got to kill you while in custody, so be it. Because you are a threat to my well-being and my way of living. So when you talk about, what exactly is lynching, it can come in many forms. It can come in many ways. But the undergird foundation of lynching is to make sure that I survive and you don't.
That's the underpinning of it all.
Yeah.
And I went and looked it up because I just had to find it. I had to find what would make people want to do such a horrible thing. And I found a list of things that people got lynched for. Unknown causes.
Yep.
Just because we felt like it.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
No cause at all. Race prejudice.
Yep.
Miscegenation. One of those things that's, still in the Alabama Constitution.
Yep.
Miscegenation.
Yep. Yep.
Informing.
Yep.
Making threats.
Yep.
Practicing fraud.
Now, before you go any further, go back to that making threats, because that making threats may not be verbal.
Exactly.
Let me be very clear about that.
Your posture.
Your posture.
Just because I'm a big
your
man.
physique.
Exactly.
I feel threatened.
My tone. I don't want to step off the sidewalk.
Yep.
I don't want to walk in the mud.
Yep.
Just any old reason.
Any old reason, which go back to the very first reason that he said.
For no reason at all.
For no reason at all. Hold on. It gets better. Practicing voodoo.
Oh. Okay.
Refusing to give evidence.
Yet they withhold all of this evidence.
Hold on. Did I just hear the DA? Did I just hear the DA?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're telling me modern DA is engaged in a constant lynching apparatus when they say either you tell or we gonna get you.
Or we're gonna lock you up too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. For political cause.
This is getting interesting. Close your book up, Pastor Stewart.
Wait. Disobeying quarantine regulations.
Oh man.
Slapping a child.
Didn't we just go through COVID?
Slapping a child. Turning state's evidence. Protecting Negroes.
No snitch.
To prevent from giving evidence.
Don't tell everything. Just what we asked you.
Writing a letter to a white woman. Asking a white woman to marry you. Conceal criminality. Threatening political exposure.
I don't like it.
You get lynched for self-defense. That means you dare defend yourself, so we're going to lynch you.
It's called resisting arrest.
Bam. Insulting, quarreling with a white man.
Who? Insulting who?
A white woman.
Wow.
Oh, excuse me. Insulting language to a white woman. Quarreling with a white man.
I'm gonna walk out on this discussion.
Throwing stones.
Pastor Stewart, where did you get this list from?
This list comes from a website called the Black Past. It is taken from Ida B. Bill's writing in 1918.
Yep. Ida Barnett. Yep. That's exactly where it come from.
Wow. So this has definitely been the conversation went a little bit different than what kind of was planned and planned. But Pastor Stewart, thank you for always having these rams in the bush, aka Dr. Anderson. Dr. Anderson.
I'm gonna stop eating all this candy.
I thought you ate all your candy.
I'm eating nuts. I'm being healthy.
After you done ate a bag of high chews.
No, it's an antioxidant mix.
Yeah, but you didn't ate a bag of high chews.
No, that was earlier.
But you ate them.
I ate 3. One for the father.
Ooh, I tell you, you don't know how to bring it on in. You ate the Trinity. You ate the Trinity of high chews.
I had a Trinity
of high chews. Lord help him.
But let's try to wrap it up because I know we got to get ready for the I don't like it. I know we got, and Dr. Anderson always got to get off before the I don't like it. So
yeah, because he be trying to act like he, real,
Exactly.
What you talking? I don't even know what that is. What you talking about?
That's the point we're making. You've been on the show several times and you have no idea what that is.
Because I do like them other folk. I stay on just for a quick minute, then I say I gotta go. I'm staying for the whole show this time because I want it all.
And he followed me today, Pastor Stewart.
Oh my God.
Now he's following Yielded. Ain't that something? That I ain't see it pop up. You only been on 17 times.
We're gonna get him on track. But listen, y'all. This whole conversation is just a drop in a larger conversation that we gotta start having.
Right.
Definitely.
We gotta start having conversations about what goes on with the people who are the most vulnerable.
Yes.
We got to start having these conversations because if we are not careful, again, if nothing sparked me as a clergy person, forget me being a clergy person, because we're always talking about what the preacher should be doing.
Right.
We're always talking about what the preacher should be doing. The preacher is one person, but the church is hundreds.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And it's amazing to me that we always want the preacher to do something,
But we don't do it.
but God forbid we do something.
Right.
So as a believer, as a so-called Christian, you know, I have a hard time with that word in these last and evil days. But that's not what this show is about. That's not what this show is about. But as a believer, as a Christ follower, if you don't have a concern for the least of these, I'll be the first one to say you're a hypocrite.
Mighty God.
That's true. That's true.
But Chris, how can you say such a thing? Because I heard y'all look in the red words. I was told, my big mama told me she didn't go to seminary. You know, she barely could read, but she said them red words in the Bible, that was Jesus talking. And Jesus says that for those of you who say that you are not concerned about the welfare, the well-being of a person that's incarcerated,
right?
That they did the crime and now they got to do the time, and that ain't got nothing to do with me. Jesus says that you are the very ones that have done me the most harm. You don't believe that Jesus said that? Go to Matthew chapter 25. He said, look, I was hungry, you didn't feed me. Naked, you didn't clothe me. I was a prisoner. I was in jail, and you didn't even come see about me. But you'll say, Lord, when did we see you in these various conditions? He said, look, in as much as you have done unto the least of these,
right,
you have done it also unto me.
Right. Right.
So listen, this conversation, which we are going to revisit again. We're going to revisit it again.
Again.
I don't think I want to talk to Dr. Mitchell.
I don't like it that he ain't show up.
I don't like it either.
Maybe he was doctoring. Maybe he was doctoring.
I don't like it. But
still the same.
I think we need to have some legitimate conversation about why it's important. You know, Ida B. Wells Barnett, had she not written the Red Record, Congress would have never attempted to try to act. And I use that phrase, attempted to act, because the first anti-lynching bill was introduced in the halls of Congress in 1922.
Yep.
It was not signed into law until the year 2022.
Yep.
100
then everyone else would be happy about it.
About something, and guess what? What they signed into law had all the teeth snatched out of it.
Yep, it did.
What they put in law, what they codified in law, had all the teeth snatched out of it. The ability for the Justice Department to not just prosecute, but to hold accountable. And the crazy part is, Dr. Anderson, the crazy part is, Yielded, that my preaching hero, Dr. Vernon Johns, in Montgomery, Alabama, in 1940, said it was open season on Negroes.
You sure enough did.
And it's still open season on people of color. Yeah. And Dr. Payton tried to help us out. If we don't mobilize our voice, and look, this ain't the election for you to be playing around. I'm gonna say it again. Yeah, Joe Biden needs to repent. The Democrats need to repent. But this ain't the election for you to be playing around. This is not the election for you to sit out. This is not the election for you to let Ted Cruz in Texas go back to the United States Senate. This ain't that election. If you are tired of your folk freezing to death because your power is rolling, if you tired of that, stop sending Ted Cruz to the doggone United States Senate.
You preaching good.
You mean Raphael?
Say again.
You mean Raphael? Because his name ain't Ted. His name Raphael. Now he can
doctor it up however he wants.
He can try to pass all he wants, but his name is Raphael, and he ain't no different than Juan coming across that border.
I was about to say, I wonder can he get pulled over?
No, he's not going to get pulled over. I wish he would though. I wish they put him on the plane.
Here's the crazy thing. Now, what are they gonna do? What is they gonna do?
They gonna deport him.
When all of them that's been code switching for the last 30 years.
That's making me nervous.
I don't know. Ask that sister that was just running for president who said her name Nikki.
No. How about we ask that sister in Arizona that's running for Senate right now?
I'm about to turn y'all off. I feel like
don't do it. I'm wrapping up so we can do the hour.
Commercial. Look, Dr. Emmett say every time I say something, y'all want to run a commercial.
But look, this ain't the deal for you to sit at home. Texas, Alabama.
There's too much. There's too much at stake, and a non-vote is a vote.
A non-vote is a vote. It's too much at stake, and while the levels of whiteness are talking about, what they need to do to protect whiteness, we need to be trying to protect blackness, our existence. Because guess what? You can mess around if you want to. I was telling Dr. Anderson this yesterday in our conversation over lunch, that if you can mess around with this conversation about not voting, you can mess around and say, I don't care about what they're doing behind prison walls. I don't care about them people. I don't care about what's going on. But that doggone fella that's running against Joe Biden is talking that same talk that Adolf Hitler was talking in the 20s.
Yep.
He talking that same kind of jazz that Benito Mussolini was talking in the 1920s. He talking that same type of jazz that Herbert Hoover was talking right here in America in the 1920s.
Right after Birth of the Nation came out.
He talking that same type of jazz. That fella right there, he talking that same type of jazz. And if they can lynch people behind the walls of a prison and cast them aside, and nobody ever say anything about that, that prison is just like a concentration camp.
Yep.
And just for the record, and I'm done, we can go and take a break after this. Just for the record, the Nazis got they marching orders from America. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget America has taught the world how to hate. We taught the world how to hate, how to demoralize and dehumanize people.
Yep.
And people groups. We've taught the world how to do it.
All in the name of democracy.
All in the name of democracy. Yes. Dr. Anderson, thank you for coming. Tell us where we can get your book.
You can go to Amazon, and you can order it there, or if you want a signed copy, you can send me a text message. I always give for my phone number. And then I can get your address, so on and so forth, and get you a signed copy. But it's 205-249-5950. 205-249-5950. Just send me a text message, and I do reply to every text message that I get. But I can get your information, and we can go from there.
And they can like your church Facebook page, which is
First Baptist Church of Ensley. First Baptist Church of Ensley. And if you looking for me online, I have definitively on social media platforms moved away from my colonized name which is Dr. Tyree Anderson, and I have embraced my Akan name, which is Papa Kwesi Yame, Kwesi capital Nyame, Kwesi Yame.
I can never pronounce it. He lets me slide. He lets me slide because his mama still call him Tyree. So look, he let me slide.
And the name of the book one more time.
The name of the book is Recalled to Its Purpose, The Black Church and the Solution to Incarceration.
Y'all go get that. Go get that. Listen, you will have to pay for the sins of your friends. I'm not sending you my money until I get my other book. So you get with Dr. You know Dr. Clark?
I know Dr. Clark. You
Send
want me
Dr. Clark run me my book.
I'll tell.
And then I'm gonna buy this one.
I'll tell.
Because Pastor Stewart ain't putting enough emphasis on getting my book on my morning.
Actually, Dr. Anderson was with me when I told Dr. Clark last week at our gathering that you said run you his book.
Yes. My book or my money. One of the two. Now I want both of them. I want my book and my money back. Now you didn't hear my money too long. So Dr. Anderson, listen, you always get up and get out of here because you be driving people and having church and Bible study, vacation, Bible school with plethoras of food and all kinds. You just, tell us all kinds of stuff to get off of here. But you stayed with us tonight and we're grateful. But what you typically leave us on is right before we get into the testimony period of the Fiyah Show. And here at this church, we let you testify like y'all don't testify at your church. Okay?
Yeah, don't nobody testify at First Baptist because
they don't testify.
No.
They be testifying this.
But I will testify. But I will testify that I just sent Dr. Clark a message and said, Yilda said, run her book. You late, bro.
And my money. Put that in there. And her money now. Yeah, I didn't need no layaway plan. Wiener's closed down. I need my book. But Dr. Anderson, on the Fiyah Show, every Tuesday we come on here and we basically just kind of get out of our system things that we don't like. But there's only one rule, one regulation. You can't say I don't like. It's I don't like. Just like you're scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. Because we bought the word, we trademarked it, we owned it. And so you just got to start out with I don't like, and then you can just tell us what it is that you don't like. Okay? And I'm gonna start mine. I don't like when they put me in the middle seat on the plane, and the person to my right and the person to my left is asleep with their mouth wide open, and we on an early morning flight, and it's obvious that ain't nobody brushed before they got on the plane.
They didn't brush, they didn't floss, they ain't do nothing.
It smelled like open season.
I'm gonna tell you what I don't like when they put you in the middle seat and the person to your left and to your right want to carry on a conversation over top of you.
Yeah, how about y'all sit beside each other?
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I don't like it.
Well, I discovered something I don't like. When
he's about to say it with his chest.
When we were leaving New York on March 3rd to get to Ghana, we left at 11:55 p.m. So I'm sleepy. I get on the plane and I go to sleep. What I don't like is somebody waking me up, asking me, do I want to eat? If I want to eat, I'd have stayed up. Leave me alone. I don't like that.
And then they didn't really give you nothing that was real appetizing either, did they, Dr. Anderson?
You know what? I don't like the fact that they stopped serving like real food when you fly on the airplane. When I started flying, you could get like a meal, and it was actually tasted good. Now you get them 4 peanuts. I don't like that they give you them 4 peanuts and that half a swallow of soda.
How about today? They passed juice twice and they gave me nail snack. I'm like, where my pretzels, my trail mix, my scone, my biscotti, something with, you're just passing out juice. I want a little snack. Listen, I don't like. I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna let y'all have it. I ain't gonna talk about y'all preachers. Go ahead. Come on.
I don't like everybody got something to say about the preacher nowadays.
I like talking about preachers.
I don't like the fact that you want to put me in the same category.
With,
go ahead, Dr. Anderson.
with, let me see if I can't find your favorite song over here.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Well,
Don't do it.
let me give y'all another one.
Another one.
I don't like when people have expensive cars, and when they're driving their expensive cars, they got Bluetooth in their car. And instead of them using the hands-free mechanism, they all driving in my lane because they too busy doing this on their phone. Or they too busy looking at their phone and not paying attention and almost hitting me with their most expensive vehicle. I don't like that.
He said with their most expensive vehicle. I don't like people that use their speakerphone in public. Turn it off. I don't want to hear your conversation.
How about you put on some headphones?
How about that?
How about you get some Bluetooth devices?
Or get your cord. It don't matter. They got them in Dollar Tree. They got them for Apple, Android, everything. In the Dollar Tree and the Five Below store.
You can look. I just went to the Five Below and got me some new earphones right here for $8. For $8.
I thought they was Five Below.
I don't like the fact that they advertise as being Five Below, but they charge me $8.88 for these dogs.
I'm still mad, and I don't like that Dollar Tree ain't $1 no more. I'm still.
I don't like the fact that Dollar Tree going out of business. Y'all heard that?
Ew. I didn't know that.
Ew.
I didn't know that. Is that why
I got a message from Dr. Clark.
I don't like whatever Dr. Clark about to say.
Dr. Clark said, tell her I mailed it and she should have it. Tell DJ yielded.
Did you like saying that, DJ? Oh, I know you ain't. You telling the gospel truth right there.
I know I was a little tardy.
Well, I just got back from New York, so it might be in the mailbox, but I don't think so because I watches my mailbox from my email. So, Dr. Clark, if my book is not in there, we're gonna have problems.
I don't like the fact that people don't go to the mailbox no more. You know, they be watching their stuff from the phones and carrying on.
Listen, the lady that works, the nice little poster lady, she came with a little tub one time and put it on the porch. She rang the bell, and when I got to the door, she said, "Get all that out of there and give me my tub back tomorrow." There was no more room in my mailbox. And so
You mean to tell me that you had left enough mail that filled up one of them tubs?
Well, it's not my fault that they just give us a mail slot this big in the subject.
That's a pity and a shame.
Pastor Steve, you're judging me.
That's a shameful God.
I didn't ask for any of that mail in that mailbox.
Well, you can always do what Fred Sanford said.
What's that?
Put it back in the box.
Listen, I left it in the box. She brought that. I didn't ever get it out of the box. She brought it. Listen, y'all, it has been an absolutely crazy night here on the Fiyah Show. Dr. Tyree Anderson, tell us one more time where the folks can find you, how to get in touch with you and all of that. You have to spell that name that you got because she put it on the screen and people could have found that because I couldn't even type it fast as you said it. And tell us what else you got coming up and going on so the people can be in tune with you.
I'm about to type it in the
What are you typing it in there? Okay, look at you.
so you can get it.
Yeah, I seen it when you came through there. I said, who is this?
And so again, I'm on Facebook, I'm on X, aka Twitter. I got an Instagram account. But I'm on social media handles Kwesi Yame. It is I'm a part of the ancestral house of the Sosa Ubusia house in the Akan kingdom and in the Asante kingdom of Ghana. I am pastor of First Baptist Church in Ensley. You can find that on Facebook. We got a YouTube channel as well. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm pretty much a real reachable, easy to deal with guy. I love people and I love our people.
Zach, tell us about the number again.
Yeah, 205-249-5950 if you want to get the book, if you want to get a signature. And I can get you the information. You just cash out me the money and I have it in the mail the next day. I won't be a little tardy like my brother.
A lot tardy.
That was a
Hey, I do want you to give us the website for
Harambe.
For Harambe, please.
Harambe is the international organization that I serve as chairman of the board of directors. It was through Harambe that I just took a team over to Ghana to do a cultural immersion trip and to allow them to experience the continent. And one of the things I do disagree with that Reverend Owen said is that we don't need to go to Africa. I absolutely disagree. You need to go. And the reason why you need to go and see what confidence looks like on the ground of Black people who don't have a fraction of what you got. And they still find ways to be happy, to love each other, and not kill themselves. And so Harambe, this time on this trip, we put a water well in the ground at a village township called Treme, Treme, and that provided clean water for 12,000 people who did not have access to clean water. And so that's the kind of work that I'm doing on a global scale. But Harambe website is Harambe, HARAMBEE cares, CARES.com. Harambe cares, HarambeCares.org. And that is the organization that I am the chair of the board of directors. And we are doing some great work around the world, impacting Black people on the continent and in the diaspora.
Thank you. Yielded. It's always fun.
Yes, sir.
It's always fun.
Always.
It's always fun.
Yeah, we're getting a new disclaimer just for you and your crew.
Look, we got to find something that said that the peoples is going to be made uncomfortable, and they gonna hear the truth.
You record it and bring it with you.
I ain't gonna be able to do that. You know, I can't do. Look, I got to give a shout out to my friend right there in the Brookshire.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, sir. That's way down south. Yeah, that's way down south.
In the Brookshire.
That's not Houston.
No, that's the Brookshire.
Okay, go ahead and give him a shout out.
It way out yonder. Dr. Elian Jones, my dear friend and brother, my brother. Got to give a shout out to him. So, look, y'all, whenever you down in Brookshire, it's down yonder. You know, it's down yonder. Go
way down.
You might go to the igloo plant. It's down yonder.
And on that note, it is 6:55, y'all, and it has been an amazing time here on the Fiyah Show. As usual, again, big thanks to Pastor Stewart and his whole crew. We're grateful to God that everybody tonight was reasonably well. Black Jesus didn't show up and act up, and we had no jokes from what his name is.
Don't talk him up.
Okay, yeah, because he'll show up. But listen, we're gonna get up and get out of here. Dr. Anderson, do you have any last words? You want to give a benediction or anything such as that? What you got?
I just want to tell you, thank you for having me on again. I greatly appreciate it, and I love this platform. And anytime I can kind of come and help, educate, empower, equip, and emancipate our people, I am humbled for the opportunity, because clearly other people could have done it and did it a whole lot better than me. But y'all welcome me to come in and rant and rave to liberate our folks. So I say thank you so very much.
We like it and we appreciate you coming in. Look, you almost had on the same tie as Cousin Al, Reverend Al.
Well, I had on something else and I was told I needed to look better. So
you ain't had your chest out.
So no,
I ain't gonna talk about nobody. I ain't gonna do it.
You got to, because when I see Carmine, I'm gonna tell him, like, man, what you doing? You coming trying to find you a wife or something? What you?
Yeah, that was another show we had. We had the dating show a couple weeks. We had a dating show a couple weeks ago, so he yeah, he was missing that one. But y'all, I appreciate y'all seriously. And Dr. Anderson, anytime you want to be part of the Fiyah Show, you just let us know. We'll make sure you get in here. Got something burning and pressing. We definitely need to get y'all in here and educate these people a little bit more before we get to this election.
Yeah,
because it's important. Pastor Stewart has put his stuff down for every quarter, but he's been here twice this year already. Look at God.
Look at God. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, don't call me because my phone turned off. I ain't paying no bill. Don't worry about it. All right. God bless y'all. Thank y'all so much. And it's been great. And we will see y'all next time.
Will do.
Awesome. Listen, Fire Family, we're going to get ready to get up and get out of here. Turn y'all loose. Let y'all get to the rest of your evening. I don't know what else y'all going to do on a Tuesday evening. You ain't going to Bible study. Have y'all ain't prayed Sunday. Have y'all ain't go to church on Sunday. I don't know what y'all did. Not my business, is yours. But listen, it's your girl Yielded. I'm going to get up, get out of here because there's a rumbling in my tummy. And I need to go feed that thing before it gets too loud. But in the meantime, in between time, we'll be back here next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, doing what we do, putting a little heat to the word on the street. I'm out, y'all. Bye.
K Classic.
That DJ yielded. I told you that you couldn't do it because you washed up. All right, thank you, family and friends. Love y'all. Thank y'all so much. Hey, Mr. Freeman, bless you. Thank you. Listen, like and share the video. That's something somebody can get. Let me turn the music down so I can stop screaming. Listen, when you get old, you don't realize you can just do stuff like that, and it makes it simple. But like and share this video. Dr. Anderson, Pastor Stewart, and friends had something to say. So y'all go share it so people can hear it and know what was on there. And we're going to revisit this lynching by another name. Good night, y'all. Love y'all. So you can say what you want. Be who I'm supposed to be.